Hello, this is Jeff Byers, and this is Module 3, Extra Credit. So, if you've gotten this far, and you've got everything else done, and you got your Play Blast completed, then you are ready to go. So, basically, the Play Blast portion of this will be an AVI. So, we're doing a Play Blast real quick. XVID. And we want quality at 100, scaling at 1, frame padding at 4, save file. Scroll down, browse where you would like it to go. We're going to say the desktop. And let's call this JBuyers Turntable. Okay. Alright, go ahead and save that out. It's going to be on the desktop, and it will do a really quick Play Blast. Again, I had to download XVID. I had to restart the computer and then start Maya back up again. And that should play your animation. That's what you'll turn in to get credit for the deliverables. That's going to be your Play Blast. Okay, so I'm going to shut that down. So when we do extra credit, basically that's a render. And I usually ask for an HD 1080, but that's going to take a long time to render depending on kind of light system you have and HDR. We're talking about overnight, probably 8 to 10 to 12 hours. Let's look at our settings here real quick. So when you're rendering, 6 is extremely high for a sequence of renders. So let's bring that down to 5. And unfortunately I gotta have subsurface scattering because I've got like a skin material on the skin. You can turn that back down to 2 if you want to. If you don't have a skin material, that'll go a lot faster. And I've got 12, 3, 3, 10, 0, and 10. Of course, you can pause this to see what I have for a solution for the attributes. And then in the Comments tab, we're going to do JPEG, okay, next to image format, quality 100. We're going to use a name number dot extent ext, name number dot ext. It's the second one from the top, or from the bottom, excuse me. Click on that. 1 to 400. Okay. And we want it to go 1 frame at a time, so 1 to 400 to 1. And then what's our camera? It's going to be our perspective. Okay, do we want an alpha channel mask? That's really up to you. Do you want to have a background, and pull a mask? You can have that, but I'm going to turn that off. That'll make it faster. Presets HD 1080, that is really large. So between the two will be fine for me. For extra credit, I may ask for HD 1080. You may not have time for that one. Let's do HD 720. Okay, I think that is it. Everything is all set up. Oh, we need one more thing. That's probably the most important thing is you make sure you set your project because it'll tell you where it's going to go. Okay, right now mine is going to go to this. Okay, and wherever I set my project, it's going to go into the images folder of that project. So if you set your project up correctly, it'll go to that images folder. So that's where it's going to be. All right. Let's do once that's all set up, we're good to go. You may want to go ahead and save your scene at this time. And we're going to save it as an MB file. And this will be number 11 for my pose. Okay, let that save. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a quick render. I'm going to pause the video so you won't have to wait for this. Okay, render time is 16 seconds. That is super fast. So what I'm going to do is okay, that render time is 16 seconds, so I'm going to pause it once I start. I'm going to go ahead and do a higher resolution So I think I'm good with this. So under camera A, I'm going to do 6. Get that back up again. And then the comments tab, I'm going to go into HD 1080. I can afford to let it render overnight, and we should have no problem. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'll go ahead and do another render. I'll pause it. Okay, this render was 55 seconds, which is still good. It's under a minute, so that's really good for a render. Okay, so this render time was 0.55 seconds, or 55 minutes, which is just about a minute. So we're at about 7 hours and 20 minutes. So you can basically render that. Anything under a minute, you'll be able to render overnight. Okay, basically that's how you can figure it out. And then double it. So if it renders at 2 minutes a frame, double that times 8, which is 16. So if you're doing 2 minutes per frame rendering, it'll take you 16 hours, roughly. I've got a very, very quick computer too, very fast computer, so that might make things a little bit slower for you too. So that's where I'm at for rendering. Okay, so how do we get this rendered out? Well, we render it out as a sequence, so we want to go into everything set up in our render settings. Everything looks good. Let's go to rendering and go to render, and we go to render sequence. Okay, open that option box up. We're rendering out of our current frame. One last thing before I hit render sequence and close. Once you do that, you're good to go. So before I do that, I realize that I do want to have an alpha, because I do want to have a background on there because it's awful dark without it. So I'm going to click alpha channel mask. Also, I'm going to go into JPEG and click on PNG. Okay, this format with the alpha mask on will actually embed that alpha mask into that PNG. So when you open it up, you'll be able to pull it and put a background with relatively really easy, basically with relative ease. So I'm going to go in here, and you're going to want to name that something that makes sense. So I'm going to put jbyers and underscore turntable render this time. This will be your render. Okay. I'm going to hit enter with that. So PNG, and then I turned on alpha channel. So now I'm ready to go, because I have it all set up for a background. And what I'm going to do is go into render sequence, and everything else looks really good. We're not doing anything. We're not going to do any passes, so we're not going to do enable render layers or cameras. Just keep that open and just click on render sequence and close. Now you won't be able to do anything with your computer, so do this right before you go to bed. Let it render overnight. You'll come back in the morning, it should be done, and then you can pull everything together. Okay, so I'm going to pause and show you how. Okay, so I'm back. I've got a new project here. I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and I'm just going to put my name on here again. You want to make sure this is Premiere Pro, by the way. And render. Here we go. I actually didn't render that one, but I'm going to pull something else in that I did. File, import. So you're going to import. There it is. Okay, so here's my turntable. Alright, so finally got it. Found it. Now this is a turntable I did for fun. I'm still texturing, but this will give you a good idea. So make sure you select image sequence, click on the first frame, and click open. Let's compile it together, and it should come up in here, hopefully. There it is. Looks like this one did come in. Okay, cool. I just had it in the wrong one. So I needed to make sure that's on. So here's my turntable. So I'm going to just have to drag and drop it into the timeline. There we go. And go ahead and play it. Cool. Alright, so no textures on this one. Just it's just basic modeling. And so what I do is, because it's a PNG, you should be able to bring in a HD 1080 Photoshop color, just one frame, and you can import it in here and lay it over top and then stretch it out on the timeline. You can put it underneath. Okay, you can move that up and then bring it underneath the this is video, the A means audio, and put the video underneath here, and you should be able to key that out pretty easily. So what do we do from here? Alright, so from here you bring in the image sequence, you drag it on the timeline, and you go up to, you're ready to go. The nice thing is you don't have to render these things anymore unless you do an effect. And then in here you can go to export media, and in here you want to keep that, you want this to be H.264. That'll give you a nice compression. You can rename this if you want, it's up to you. You can also tell where you want to go. Let's just say we want to go to the desktop. Okay, and I want to rename this something like turntable. There we go. And so it's going to be an AVI, everything else looks really good, and then what you do is you just click on export. I'm not going to do this because I've already done this a million times. So once you click on export, it spits it back out, and that's what you're going to turn in. But you got to make sure that you have H.264 in. I apologize if you don't have Premiere Pro. I think you guys can get it for free. I'm not sure. But anyway, if you don't have Premiere Pro, you really can't turn in extra credit, because I won't take the frames by themselves. There may be some other free stuff like Audacity or some other free video software that you can import the sequenced images into and do the same thing I just did. That's up to you. Anyway, I wish you the best of luck, and I'll see you in Module 4.